Hello, and welcome once again. Episode number 11 of our douchebag playthrough on Torpor Games Suzerain. We do have a meeting to attend. Meeting of the business council members. Nothing else to do, so I guess we're gonna go to Lachaven and have some dinner. Meet with these fuckers, and go from there. We were in Lachaven to work with the Business Council to assess weaknesses in our economy. Simon organized a dinner with the affluent economic figureheads of Swordland. I wonder if one of them is going to be Walter Tusk. We were escorted by heavily armed police force, as well as the Presidential Guard. When we arrived, the streets were quiet and the police force were patrolling everywhere. The emergency was felt in the vacant city. Together with Walter Tusk, Edith Agnock, Mikhail Avon, and Simon Hall, we entered the renowned Astoria restaurant by the coast. A short blonde man whose embroidered pocket read manager greeted us and waved his arms in excitement as he told us how pleased he was to have us in his establishment. Be good. Or if he's going to bring up me screwing him over. Well, I guess we'll find out. Beaming with pride, he led us to a private room and got us seated at a large table covered for the occasion with a maroon tablecloth. We were quickly served by a group of servers. Walter spoke as they started taking our orders. I recommended the Lachaven salmon, President. You have to taste this local delicacy here, the best in Swordland. I don't like salmon. I don't like you either. I guess that's your loss. I'm going to get the pasta. Bean stew just doesn't really sound very good, so we'll go with pasta. Salad. Pasta and salad, why not? Olive Garden in Lachaven. Servers placed glasses in front of each of us and served bread and water. After they were done taking orders, they quickly left us alone in the private room. Several of the heavily armed guards were also inside with us, protecting every entrance and exit. Edith Agnock is the chairman of the CBS. Simon Hall is my Minister of Economy, and co-chairman of the NBC is Mikhail Avon. And there's this guy. Mr. President, I didn't have the possibility to thank you for coming today. Your presence means a great deal. Indeed, sir. It's an honor to dine with you. Likewise. I should thank Simon for organizing this meeting. No need for that. I hope everyone enjoys the evening. Simon gestured at the expensive-looking red wine bottle that one of the servers had just brought to the table. Mr. President. Nod. Was bitter. Honestly, it tasted like any other wine. How is it? The taste to your liking? It has a sour and delicate vegetal character. Tastes like any other wine. What? This wine doesn't even need testing. Did I fill your glass, or would you want another drink, sir? I'll drink it, why not? Got a paper bag to go with that. Simon stood and raised his glass. I'd like to raise a toast to all of you here today. We're meeting here tonight in difficult times, but I believe that with hard work, cooperation, and trust, we will get through this period as well. I'd like to thank Mr. Rayne again for his decisiveness in office. I'm sure we will get through this emergency period and come out stronger. I'd also like to thank Mr. Tusk for being here with us today. His presence is an honor. And of course, my colleague from the Business Council, Mrs. Agnock, and Mr. Avon. Without you, none of these would have been possible. Okay? Let us drink to the future cooperation and growth for a prosperous Swordland. Everyone raised their glasses and toasted each other. After a couple more minutes, the servers arrived with our meals. Food tasted amazing. Walter was right. This place must have been the best place in all of Lachaven. As all of us started eating, Walter stopped and looked at the guards before turning to me. I know that we're in a state of emergency, Mr. Rayne, but can't we even eat alone? What are they protecting here? They have already surrounded the whole restaurant. It's a necessity, Mr. Tusk. There's nothing I can do about it. You have to be prepared for everything. I can take them out if you want. No. Nothing I can do about it. It's a necessity. There and eat your salmon, cubs. So how did you find the food of the best fine dining restaurant in Lachaven, Mr. President? Fine food is like fine art, but this particular one is a masterpiece. Okay. And alright. Alright. Oh? Don't like the food? Liked it, but it's nothing special. Hope the manager didn't hear that. How are things going in the Maroon Palace? Pressure must have increased after you did not attend the funeral. It's tough, but the new laws will fix it. I have to say the future is looking good. It did, but it was the right decision. Pressure was already high. Nothing has changed. Laws will fix it. As I look at everyone in the room. My intimidating bald head. As we conversed with Mikhail, I heard Walter raise his voice in an apparent argument with Edith and Simon. We both stopped to listen. Arcasia knows the right way of doing business. Her approach to the world is real and raw. I prefer that cutthroat approach in comparison to the niceties. Well, I mean, it's a nice country to visit, too. I've traveled there often on business trips. Their attitude on... All countries are nice to visit if you have the cash. I'm just going to let them duke it out. Certainly depends on what you're looking for. Cultural tourism doesn't require a fancy hotel. Last time I went somewhere for that sort of thing was at university. Even then, we had our wild times thanks to Conrad's connected entourage. Also, Walter is taking us down the rabbit hole again. By the way, I saw that the construction of the railway had already started. I have my concerns about the company, but I hope they do a good job. That project will surely boost our economy if done correctly. The mood is already becoming positive. Anything to say about that, Walter? I have to congratulate Mr. Rayne for starting such a massive project. State's doing its job. Mr. Hall also deserves credit, of course. Our great economy minister. Is there a joke coming? Why? But you said you were great at economy. Laughed. Still waiting for the shoe to drop here with Mr. Tusk. Heard that you've bought a new villa, Simon. I don't comment on rumors, but I'll make an exception since we are among friends. It's true. You're doing a great job, so you deserve it. Where's the property and why? Go with why. Already had my eye on the area, plus it wasn't intended to be public. A small seaside villa at the outskirts of Conriat. Just a modest house with a swimming pool and a small golf course on the property. Very modest. Great city to buy real estate in. Conriat is seeing a surge in investment. You're becoming a neighbor to Marcel Caranti. Modest? Are you being sarcastic with me? It's my thoughts. No, is there a problem? Oh, come on. Leave the man be, President. Edith, who was sitting to my left, gently put her hand over my arm for a few seconds. Come on, let's not talk about finance or politics for now. We came here to relax. She turned to Walter and Simon. Is that right, gentlemen? They nodded at her and took a sip from their drink. She slightly leaned towards me. Oh. Ugly. Oh. you know. So, Mr. Rayne, why don't you tell us what's behind that strong character? I've heard that you had a difficult life in Dire. Is that right? Try to leave my past behind and focus on today. It's who we have become that matters. My childhood was very difficult, but it definitely made me stronger. My family cared for me as much as they could. I couldn't ask more. Made me stronger. Sometimes it impacts people more negatively. My father used to beat me up good when I crossed the line. If you can't tell, I really don't like this guy at all. Him and Elias Graff. Although it seems like Elias Graff is kind of my side. So I may have to change my attitude about her. I never met your family, Mr. President. How are they doing, if you don't mind me asking? Prefer not to talk about my family. We don't talk much since I became president, and they're doing great. We have no problems. That's great to hear. Your son must be very proud of you. My son kind of hates me. Family is everything. My advice would be to make sure that Frank has a solid relationship. He is your future, after all. I'm trying my best to be a good father to him. He seems to be somewhat introverted. He's going through the teenager period. It's difficult to connect with him. A little shy. Kid can handle himself. Doesn't need anybody. And why do you even care? I'm just giving advice, Mr. President. Nobody would want a son that steals your yacht and makes the... That's supposed to... Looked at Mikhail. See what this guy had. Let's... Doesn't say anything about that. Well, the rascal didn't even ask for permission to use the yacht and just took it. He basically stole it. Okay. Good news is that I finally convinced him to go to university. He'll study economics at Lachaven Business School. That's a good choice. Having a degree in Swordland separates you from the rabble, and we especially need more people who understand economics. Maybe your son will be a great future economist. I wouldn't count on that. But I agree we need more economists to enter politics. It's unfortunate that Ewald Alfonso was the only leader who actually studied economics. He turned to me. Not that I mean anything against you, Mr. Rayne. Look at what he caused. Studying doesn't get you to the finish line. Alphonse was an inspirer. What did you just say to me? Pick a fight with him. Everyone fell silent and looked at Mikhail. No, I didn't mean to... Oh, excuse him, President. He didn't mean anything bad. Walter laughed and Mikhail joined in with the nervous laughter soon after that. No, what did he just say? Making fun of my mustache? But he responded. I'm going to yell. Will somebody answer me? No need to shout at the table, Mr. President. Still didn't give me a response. He said Ewald Alfonso was the only leader who was well versed in economics. Please forgive me, I didn't mean to offend you. Now watch your word. Enough with this Alfonso talk. His policies already destroyed him. Correction. It wasn't his policies that destroyed him. Walter looked at the guards inside the room. What do you mean? Everybody knows that. Always had a bad feeling about his sudden fall. And you continue. Curious. Let's just say that he threatened the economic power base of some powerful figures within the government with his past privatization plan. They removed him. Lowered his voice. Now they're backing you. Okay, that seems like he's leading somewhere with this. Walter, stop with the conspiracy theories. I think we've had enough drinks. Everyone went quiet. After a long silence, followed by some chit-chat, Walter ordered a bottle of whiskey. One good-looking bottle. Waiters brought one of the finest Arcasian whiskeys. It was time for a toast. I'll toast. I'll do it this time. Raise to our health and happiness, to constructive and beneficial future, to our wealth and success, to an equal society without class differences. Oh. Wealth and success, that's what we're about. Wealth and success. Boy, here's to that. I think it's time we call it a night. Edith stood up. Most of us were all a little tipsy at this point. I want to thank you, Mr. President, for joining us, and you, Simon, for putting all of this together. Thank you, Edith, for joining with a bunch of ugly rich men. Here we go. That's definitely not me. President jokes. Thanks for being here. After bidding our farewells, we slowly walked out of the restaurant. Here we go. The moon was shining bright as everyone except Walter left in their luxury cars. President, a moment alone, please. He gestured at the guards and then called me inside the small VIP lounge. Ignore him and leave? So do I want to just dust him? Or do I want to do what he has to say? Alright, well, we'll give him a chance. We'll see what he's got to say. Usually the Lothburg spokesman doesn't directly comment on the administration, but I'd like to say a few things since this was a special evening. If you have to. This is the most douchebaggy thing that I could pick. But I'm kind of curious where this conversation's going to go, so... We're really concerned about the state of emergency. We found ourselves worrying about the future. We need stability for business to function. So if you want us on your side with our capital, there's a few requests on our end. Walter lit a cigar and took a few drags before continuing. Many in the group are disappointed in the economic direction that you took by promoting an inefficient planned economy, not to mention taking your money and stiffing you. Let's see. Promises made during the election had to be upheld. That was the main reason behind this decision. We don't share similar interests with Lothburg, or I don't care. Oh, but you definitely should, President. Locked eyes with me, or he looked me in the eye. I'm making up my own story here. We had a deal about the first mega infrastructure project. Here we go! You broke that promise and didn't award the contract to Underhall Construction. This action led to a huge disappointment in the... Opinions of the Lothburg group don't concern me. I will make my choices on my own. They represent a large collective of economic power. Cooperation would be helpful in solving the recession. You didn't look satisfied. The satisfaction of Lothburg should concern you, Mr. President. It should concern you very much. Especially after you took our contribution, didn't act on it. Hard to argue against compromise. Not changing my mind, bro. Well, let's not be hasty. The recession will end if Lothburg is on your side, Mr. President. Lothburg was on my side in my last playthrough, and the recession absolutely did not end. Why can't we all just be friends? I have other plans for our economy, brother. Don't include you. I did offer you a peace branch. I should have just ignored him. There was an awkward silence. Either way, President, we are here and always ready to work with you if you change your mind. Don't forget that. Well, that's nice of you. I'll think about it, but not now. Keep my options open. Okay? Not completely stiff them. Not yet. Surge came to pick me up. Get in the car and ride away. Oh, there we go. That didn't go as bad as I thought it would. Let's see. Nationwide peaceful protests, huh? Right. Well, we got a lot to do here. What's next on the major meeting schedule? Budget allocation of the government of Swordland. Oh boy. Newspapers have to say. Bill on the rights of workers being drafted. The Grand National Assembly of Swordland will vote on a bill on Thursday to protect workers' rights in Swordland that supporters are calling the most ambitious pro-labor legislation in decades, in which one USP representative has dismissed as the worst bill in the Assembly. Workers' Protection Act has strong support from both the PFJP and the NFP, as well as labor leaders. The bill was a result of a bipartisan effort from the leading figures of PFJP, as well as the Ministry of Health, led by Pasquale Benewal. Workers' Protection Act amends the Labor Act by establishing a minimum wage of $2.50 Swedish Rand per hour and adding guidelines on overtime work as well as safety and protection guidelines. It also extends the rights of workers to all migrants, acknowledging their rights to work in Swordland. The bill also makes it illegal for corporations to force workers to do unpaid overtime. Some estimates suggest costs for those firms would increase by 50% if they have to treat workers according to the proposed laws. Despite the bill coming from the governing USP, it faces a huge opposition inside the party. However, with the support of the PFJP and NFP, the bill has a high chance of passing the Assembly. The recently banned Workers' Party of Bludia leader Fete Agil, pitcher, forgot about that, was arrested today after a meeting with an ex-member of the banned Bludish Freedom Party. Despite the ban on WPB, Agil continued to organize meetings with his title as spokesperson. President meets with Business Council. Our sources have reported that yesterday President Rayne had a meeting with the Business Council behind closed doors in Lachaven. I thought was supposed to be secret. The agenda of the meeting was not disclosed and the contents of the meeting remained a secret, but it can be expected that President Rayne has discussed the future economic plans of his administration, as well as listening to the concerns of leading industry figures. Kind of. Horrible mine disaster, 112 dead. I think we already read about this. Coincidentally, and made this very comment, the workers' rights bill that was being drafted in the Assembly for the past few months comes too late. For mine workers. Sucks to be them. Alright, let's take a look around, see what's going on. Car bomb attack in Arbery. Car parked in an Agno Swordish dominated neighborhood in the outskirts of Arbery has exploded. Police reports that there were no casualties or injuries. No perpetrators have been found connected to the incident. There are investigations ongoing. Riots stop in Lachaven. Police force members in civilian clothes have now been dispatched to areas of contention in Lachaven. Many arrests were made swiftly and accurately due to new laws allowing detention without trial. Protests in Lachaven are now curbed. Cool. So our heavy-handed approach appears to be working somewhat. Additional forces are arriving in Lenkirk. With the order to increase police authority, such as more manpower, supplies, ammunition, and protective riot equipment, were requested by Lenkirk. Approximately 5,000 policemen departed from Arbery in buses to help reinforce police forces in Lenkirk. Okay. School poisoning connected to Bludish woman. Oh, geez. Bloods are going to be a problem, I think, here. Vilma Asir, who was working at the school kitchen, was apprehended with connection to last week's school cafeteria poisoning in Ribble. The act was found to be politically motivated as the perpetrators are connected to the banned Bludish Freedom Party. Asir is suspected to have been an active member of the Bludish Freedom Front since the start of the year. She has been sentenced to 60 years in prison. terrorists arrested. Sarna police forces are reporting that the broader use of wiretapping has increased their productivity. With the cutting-edge technology, they have been able to identify the ringleaders of the recent attacks and quickly arrest them. Success. Protests suspended by force. Suspension of the peaceful protests caused protesters to begin resorting to violence. Our police forces immediately reacted, and the protests are now in control. Usage of tear gas has increased in the area, and extra supplies were requested from nearby cities. Cool. So this is all very good. I never really got the political unrest under control in my last playthrough. But then again, I never really lay down the law like I'm trying to do in this one. Budget allocation of the government of Swordland. Let's go to that. Sounds exciting. Preparations for the government budget were finished. Most of the cabinet gathered in the White Room for the important occasion. Look at all these guys. Wow. Everyone's here. The one that hates me, she hates me. Nearly half a year has passed since my inauguration. The cabinet looked overworked. I'd like to use this opportunity for a statement, and now, the moment we've all been waiting for, it's finally time to discuss the government budget. Great to see you. I don't think our guy would be too overly excited to be going to a budget meeting. Let's see. Each and every one of you is very capable, but it's what we do as a team that counts. We're doing great work, and this is just the beginning. There will be many more good things to come. Years ago, all of us gathered to change the course of history. Now I'm proud of what we have achieved and what is to come. For that one. They appeared energized by my statement. Sadly, Peter Vector and Gus Manger and David Wishy won't be attending this meeting. They are working on upcoming trade agreements with Wayland and Agnolia. Not Vogsland. Made that note to remind myself that Vogsland good. May the Lord be with them. Furia gave a barely disguised eye roll. Did you just roll your eyes at me, young lady? Catfight? If I did, it's because religion has no place at a government budget meeting. I was merely expressing my wishes for a successful trade deal. Freedom of expression must be protected at all cost. Must it not, Miss Morgana? Actually, in this case, I agree with Miss Walda. Wonder why. Ira flashed her an appreciative smile. According to Swordland's laws regarding the separation of church and state, she broke off as she noticed that Simon, Lucian, and Yosef were looking at the three female ministers in stony silence. Ladies, let's leave the extraneous chit-chat for after tea. Been sexist about that or anything. But hey, whatever, he's my man. Please leave your religion at the Maroon Palace gates, Miss Graff. Lord, I'll just sit here, stare at him. Simon started loudly shuffling some documents around. All eyes turned to the Minister of Economy. Begin, Mr. Hall. Today is a big day. We must prioritize our spending wisely in order to achieve the goals we set as a government. While maintaining enough political support, if I may add, promises were made during the election, none of which I remember or care about. There are three options regarding the budgeting of the four main branches of the government. Either we increase, maintain, or decrease the funding. Increase will result in an improvement of the branch, which will unlock new policy options. Maintaining will keep the funding, resulting in no visible change. Decreasing causes a loss of efficiency in that branch. For what my election promises were. I honestly don't remember. Yeah. turn 1. Doesn't say anything about it. Oh well, whatever. Is it possible to maintain as much state control as possible? Problem isn't the amount of money spent, it's how efficiently we spend it. In the health and education departments, yes. However, I'm not sure if that would be efficient. Our universal healthcare system must be protected and not be tainted by private greed or interest. We need to be considerate when making such grand choices that have ripple effect. A very cheerful looking guy. We have to be careful as to what we fund so we have resources remaining for another investment project. Reduce the funding for branches can help fund investment projects. Prioritize. Let's set some priorities here. We have to make strategic decisions about our budget since our resources are fairly limited. Before we begin our discussion, there is one more thing that I want to voice my opinion on. As we manage the government budget, we are obviously able to go into debt to invest in different branches. Although debt is possible, under these circumstances, it would dent our financial system, worsening the economic crisis if we push it too far. Point for me as well to everyone before the discussion, says Lucian Galad. Given the current state of the country, the economic situation is a political priority right now, more so than ever. This budget will also be applicable to our entire term. It is very critical that we plan correctly. Let's begin. Which branch should we discuss first? Something tells me this is going to take a while. Let's talk about law enforcement. I would like to have an increase in funding of law enforcement to increase the size of the police force and raise salaries. We have so many internal threats to tackle, and I'm already stretching my units far too thin with the limited resources allocated to me. Nia cleared her throat. She hates me anymore. Get shit. Law enforcement is certainly a high priority. However, I feel tackling internal corruption is of far higher importance than increasing our police presence. Directing the funds to my department would solve the problem at its root. If corruption is still rampant corruption, all the police in the world won't help us. We need a specialized anti-corruption police unit, which we could create if the funds were directed to me. They aren't going to be directed to you. I agree with Miss Morgana. We should not reward a structure that is responsible for an ever-increasing number of human rights violations. Ain't seen nothing yet. Additionally, corruption is the reason of our government inefficiencies. It needs to be tackled. Police are there to serve and protect the people of Swordland, Miss Walda, and that's exactly what we are doing. More funding will allow us to take care of our police force. It is quite a simple choice given the current status of the country. I agree with Lilius. If this was another time, I would have said something different, but we know the current situation. I agree with Nia or Kira. I actually agree with Lilius, which is absolutely heartbreaking for me. Let's hear what the military has to say. See what my priorities are. What's there to hear about? I already voiced my opinion. Did? Rumberg is coming, whether we like it or not. If not this year, next year. If not next year, the year after that. Mr. President, you and I have a shared responsibility to protect this nation from its enemies, and I intend to do so until my last breath. I will say this with certainty. If Rumberg doesn't make a move against Swordland in 2 or 3 years, my name is not Joseph Lancia. Joseph was beginning to froth at the mouth. There can be no argument against increasing the budget for our army when there is an enemy on our doorsteps, waiting for us to make one wrong move. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a fool. Mr. Lancia. Right. Pardon my theatrics, sir, but this is a serious matter. The future of our country is up to you, Mr. President. Well, here is an argument. The armed forces does not does nothing but eat away financial resources destined for our people while stoking fears for an upcoming war. The issue with Rumberg can be solved diplomatically. What kind of message are we sending to them and the whole world if we suddenly start ramping up our military budget? That we are ready to defend our nation, Miss Walda. One of the reasons our government was elected was because we promised that we were going to focus on military during our campaign. Thanks for reminding me, Lucian. People elected us for a reason. We will answer their needs. I agree with Joseph. Rumberg is a real threat and we need to be ready. There we go. I'm making myself very clear to these people. Let's talk about healthcare. Give me 1 second. All right. The 1-year-old dropped his toy over the baby gate, and I had to charge off to the rescue. Now it's time for Pascal Benowall's spiel here. Our healthcare system is vast and provides free services to most of our citizens. However, the quality of our health service is far worse in low-income and rural areas. Therefore, I think we should receive more funding to address this disparity. I agree. I have recently begun an investigation into healthcare in Narble, and numbers aren't good. We don't increase spending on health services. We at least need to maintain it, otherwise we are putting lives at risk. We have just started a new analysis on what would happen if a pandemic struck Swordland. According to the results, if our healthcare facilities remain in their current state, the death toll would be unimaginable. Not even talking about the damage to the economy. This is a matter of life and death, Mr. President, and it should be treated as such. That is only if a pandemic happens. We need to improve healthcare. That is indeed worrying. We should try to fix whatever we can as a government. I don't deal in hypotheticals, brother. What about education? Our education system is lacking, not only in funding, but also in modern curricular principles. Our outdated curriculum is wasting our youth. That is the reason why I advocate two things: an increase of the budget to improve access to education in rural areas, and a new education reform. To be honest, Swordland is lacking compared to Arcasia and United Cantana when it comes to education levels. The backbone of any country is its people, and we need to protect our future. Makes a point. Not gonna lie. But that's my own personal opinion seeping into our story here. I don't think Anton Rayne would give a hoot, because they can always just join the military, you know. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that is a good way for discovery of potential geniuses in the sort of system. Military service. We need to ensure that the new generation is as well educated as their counterparts in more modern countries. Nonsense. Swordland is still here because of this very system that you insult. How can you insult a system that teaches our sons and daughters the principles of national identity and pride? We won't be compared to other countries. Swordland is Swordland. I agree with Lilius. Swordland is Swordland. Lilius is right. We will pave our own path. We didn't get this far by imitating Arcasia or United Cantata. I agree with Kira. Nope. I will think about it. I'll think about it. Very good talking points from everybody. Well then, time to make a decision on the budget has come. Consider it with care, Mr. President. Simon placed a stack of papers on my table. Okay, here we go. The healthcare system of the country was at a crossroad. Since the 1940s, the difference in quality, I was just looking down here to see, but I don't think it's going to tell me until I finally make my final decision here. Upon selecting one of the options below, you will sign an irreversible order. Please think carefully, because there will be no going back. Maintain. The education system in Swordland was overburdened. The lack of schools, teachers, and even equipment in certain areas caused massive gaps in what otherwise is known as blah blah blah. Maintain. Law enforcement. Increased crime, lawlessness, and a new wave of immigration has pushed many elements of the law enforcement to limits. Judges at courts are barely keeping up with the backlog of cases. It kind of looks like we're doing okay. But I'm going to increase the budget. We're going to go into debt doing this because I'm going to increase the military as well. But it has to be done. Your promises will be remembered and they will have consequences. You're about your decisions, Mr. President. I am. I'd finish allocating the government budget to the satisfaction of some cabinet members and the dismay of others. What if I bumped them all up? Would have made these guys happy, but whatever. I don't want to go too far into debt with the little 4 lines here. Knock on wood. They all knew this would define a significant part of our term. We have a deficit on our hands. We will need to resort to debt to finance future investments. The situation can have adverse effects if we don't strike a balance. Agreed. Well then, let's get started with law enforcement. Nia and Lilius were both smiling. Why is Nia smiling? Oh, she's a minister of justice. Thank you for this decision, Mr. President. I knew you would see reason on this, considering our internal security threats are at an all-time high. I still disagree with Ms. Graff on how the money ought to be spent, but the increased funding is certainly a step in the right direction. Any statements on the matter? Oh. Very well. Let's hear the Minister of Education. Keeping the same budget will just result in some problems. However, I prefer this over a decrease. Try and reform the system with my own resources. Our future depends on our children. Education is the first step in the fight against ignorance. Your expertise and passion should enable you to make the necessary changes. My expectation is that you will maintain education service with the same budget. Seems we have no other choice but to depend on what little we have. What will our children think of us? Military's next. Vera clearly wasn't finished, but didn't interject. Joseph chimed in. It's an honor to serve with a president that respects the military. Trust me, with these funds, our armed forces will be better than ever. You have kept your promise to focus on the military. Honorable and fitting decision. Lucian seemed as if he was about to say something, but looked down at his notepad when Joseph eyed him. Military is on the top priority list and always will be, rest assured. With your talents and experience, you... Next up is health. Let's continue. I guess I could have buttered him up a little bit, but... Joseph leaned back in his chair. Let's hear from Mr. Benewall. I can't say that maintaining the funding is negative, but I don't think our services will perform any better. Welfare must remain a priority for our term. There is no other way around it. Your opinions were noted, Pascal. Your task is to improve the healthcare in this country, which will be very difficult to accomplish without an increase in funds. That covers all branches. Each minister will approach you with their respective policy requests and expectations over the next year. Thank you for your time and participation in this significant moment. Meeting is concluded. For those of you who didn't like the decisions, don't take it personally. And go. Budget meeting for our term was concluded. There we go. And what do we have to do? Oh, we got to continue. Okay, well, let's read the newspaper here. 1954 Swordish government budget. After a marathon 18 hours of negotiating, wow, that was a pretty quick 18 hours. Government envisaged spending around 27 billion Swordish Ren next year, almost 16 billion Swordish Ren more than this year. First measure for more internal security being introduced, while the details of the allocations of the increased security funding is not yet clear. It is expected that the Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Justice will both benefit from the increase. Lilius Graff is happy. So is Joseph Lancia. And that's what matters. Alright, well, it was productive. I'm going to call the episode here. I'm going to hit the continue button at the beginning of the next one. If you like this episode, hit the like button. If you have any tips, advice, or general thoughts on Suzerain, leave those in the comment section down below. Anton doesn't seem to be doing too bad for being such a dick, at least as often as I can be. So if you want to follow along, hit the subscribe, and you can come along with us, and we will see you for our next episode. J76NY saying thank you very much for watching, and have yourself a very good day.